Chair now recognizes the next governor of Florida for 5 minutes.
I actually appreciate that, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Mr. Dodaro, it's good to see you again. Thanks for being back. Since 2003, federal agencies have reported about $2.8 trillion in improper payments, including over the last 7 years consecutively, at a minimum, $150 billion in each one of those years. The high-risk report mentions that the Department of Agriculture, HHS, HUD, DHS, OPM, and SBA all failed to report improper payment estimates in FY 2023. And to reiterate for the American people, we have 7 agencies of the federal government that have not reported on their improper payments. And if memory serves, the last report GAO issued had improper payments north of $240 billion that was reported. What are some of the real issues within the federal government for the lack of ability for these agencies to report on improper payments within their purview?
I think there needs to be more pressure put on those agencies by the administrations that are in place. And I've talked to the prior administrations about this. And the Congress needs to demand that the law be followed and they do improper payment estimates. I mean, I think it's not good management to not know how much you're paying that you shouldn't be paying. It's not good fiscal stewardship. So I'm very disappointed they're not reporting, and I would encourage the Congress and the Trump administration to require the reporting now.
I would agree with you wholeheartedly. Let me ask you the question. The agencies that didn't report, some of them vary in size. Obviously, Department of Homeland Security is a major department of the federal government. Right. Considering that, let's just say for estimate's sake, I don't have the report in front of me, that in fiscal year of 23, improper payments were $250 billion. If we had the estimates of those 7 departments, what do you think the actual outstanding was from 2023?
Yeah, I really can't hesitate to guess. The one thing Congress needs to do in this area, though, the temporary assistance for needy families, they believe, HHS, they can't make an estimate unless Congress changes the law. So they refuse to do it, saying they don't have the legal authority to require the states to give them the information they need in order to make an improper payment estimate. So Congress needs to change the statute there, and I think that's important.
All right, thank you. FEMA is currently managing over 600 major disaster declarations, some of which have occurred 20 years ago. One of the GAO recommendations is in this year's high-risk report is that FEMA should identify and document lessons learned related to estimating obligations for catastrophic disasters. Can you expand upon this?
Yeah, I'll ask Mr. Curry's our expert.
Sure. Mr. Curry, thank you.
Sure. FEMA's always struggled with this because they don't know how much they're going to need in a particular year. And then when you have a catastrophic disaster season like you had last year in your home state with Helene and Milton, that throws everything off. But COVID really threw this off because FEMA did not expect to spend what it spent on COVID. At the end of this year, it's going to have spent well north of $150 billion on COVID. And what that's done is it's sort of thrown all the estimates off. It's gone up over time, which affects their estimates moving forward. And they're spent way more than they thought they were going to have to spend on that. And that's one of the reasons that the Disaster Relief Fund is in this constant negative situation. It's supposed to be, actually, it's going to be $12 billion underwater already at the end of September, even after the supplemental appropriation that you all provided it late last year. So FEMA's
not to cut you off, but to go down this line of that we're talking about, is FEMA still having to make payments out associated with COVID-19?
Absolutely, they're still making payments.
Do you have an estimate of how much FEMA is still appropriating out because of COVID-19?
Well, last time I checked, which was at the end of February, they were upwards of $130 billion they'd have paid out, and they expect to spend over $150 billion at the end of fiscal year. They also told us they expect the disaster to run through the end of FY 26 next year and spend almost $180 billion on that. So they're still reimbursing state and local governments for that.
Okay, so they're expected to spend another $180 billion reimbursing state and local governments for COVID-19, and
No,
that's what's
sorry,
a stretch?
sorry, another $50 billion.
Oh,
from where
another
they are
$50
now.
billion to take it to $180
Yeah,
billion.
exactly.
Okay, all right. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. I'm out of my time. Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Dodaro, thank you for your time and your service.
Chair recognizes Mr. Subramaniam.
Subramaniam, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sorry.
That's okay. Before we go on to this, someone had said earlier that we cannot cut Medicaid here in Congress, and I just want to make sure everyone knows at home that that's not true. In fact, my state, this Republican budget, which it does, would cut Medicaid benefits even a little bit. Everyone who benefited from Medicaid expansion in Virginia would actually lose that benefit, and so it would hurt us and many other states, millions of people across